What's up, Melanated family? This is your guy Harrison, man, from Melanated Fathers TV, bringing you a brand new episode of my podcast, what I like to call the Melanated Convo podcast, where we have interesting conversations with people from our community. We have people who come on and talk about relationships and how we can get that right. We have people that come on and talk about politics. We have people that come on and talk about just the daily issues that we deal with as Black folks in America. All of these things are extremely important to me. That's why I created the platform. Typically on the show, we'll have someone on that will actually interview, right? Give you guys a great interview with, like I said, someone expressing some of those sentiments, right? Also on the Melanated Convo podcast, we do a Black business spotlight. I'm going to always say this, the health of our community, how we're doing in this country when it comes to racism, institutionalized racism, a lot of the injustices that we face. It is my opinion that if we were to, correct how we spend our money, make sure we put some of those funds back into the Black community, that'll go a long way of helping all of us, right? So on the show, I like to make sure I talk about Black businesses that I find. And like I always say, if I'm giving you information about a business that you don't find useful to you, then tell us about a different one. Let's talk about a different Black business then. You feel me? So I want to thank everybody for tuning into another episode of the Melanated Convo podcast. Please do me a favor and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you're listening to this on one of the digital platforms, it's how hot in this room. Sorry about that, y'all. If you're listening to this on one of the digital platforms, please do me a favor and leave a review, right? I'm on Spotify. I'm on Overcast. I'm on Google Podcast. Everywhere you can find digital podcasts, you can find this show, the Melanated Convo podcast. Also on the show, I have a special guest, right? I have a special guest. I've been trying to get this brother on for a couple weeks, a really intellectual brother, Reverend Philippe Shock Matthews. Reverend Philippe Shock Matthews, I'm going to have on the show today. He is in the queue waiting for me to pull him up. Give me 1 second. I'm going to introduce you guys to that brother. He's going to drop a lot of game on us about trauma, about metaphysics, about just the psyche of the Black man and woman in America. I'm just really interested about knowing where we come from, knowing what triggers us, like knowing what has put us in the position that we're in currently in the United States. A lot of times we don't like to face the harsh realities of why we are in the position we are in currently. But I like to speak to brothers who speak truth to power. Reverend Philippe Shock is going to get into that with us today. I'm excited to have the brother on the show. So let's get into the Black businesses really quickly here, family. The first Black business. I do this thing on Facebook where I just reach out to everybody, all my friends on Facebook, and ask them, hey, do you know any Black businesses? Any Black businesses that I can promote? I do it for free out of pure love for my people. So let me share my screen really quickly here. The first Black business that I want to tell everybody about today is for a brother named Daryl Mack, right? A brother named Daryl Mack. Daryl is in the Baltimore area, I think. And Daryl has a company called Mogul Printing, right? Mogul Printing, real fly website. If you need like a spinning sign, if you are going to be like at an expo where you're presenting like your products or your services at an expo, this brother will be able to help you out. He has like expose essential packages, which comes with a backdrop, retractable banner, magnets, merchandising, table coverings, everything you would need for that event. He also have what he calls a branding apparel package. This branding apparel package, if you're someone like myself, who's trying to get something started, you need people to be aware of your brand. You need people to be aware of your brand. This branded apparel package could be right for you. You get 12 shirts, 12 tank tops, 12 hoodies, 12 dad hats, 12 pair of socks, 24 face masks. So if you're looking to get your brand in the face of your constituents, in the face of your potential customers, this is a great type of package to get. Again, you can find these packages at mogulprinting.com. He also has retractable oval stickers. He has square. and circle like package labeling. So if you have a particular product that you're selling and you to make it look professional as possible, you're going to need some type of labeling and packaging. So the brother can help you with that. He has custom hoodies, multicolor sweatshirts, so t-shirts wholesale. So anybody out there trying to get your brand popping, whether it's a brand for like a clothing brand, whether it's an event that you have coming up, whether it's like a family function or something, he would be able to service all of that, right? Also, for all my entrepreneurs out there, right? He has the business cards, he has the postcards, he has banners. So he has everything you need to get your business started. And all I request, fam, is that before we go outside of our community to get things like this started, let's look into our community to see if we can find someone that's qualified that can offer us these same products. If you go to the website and place an order, you get 10% off by using the code Put Something Mogul Printing on it. That's the code Put Some Mogul Printing on it. Put Some Mogul Printing on it is the code you'll use at checkout. The brother Daryl Mack is the owner of this business. And again, man, I just want to show love to all my business owners out there. You know what I mean? Do my best to give them a leg up because we need a lot of little Black Wall Streets around this country. In my community in Sacramento, where I'm from, there's in Sacramento, where I'm from, we have this thing called African Marketplace. And African Marketplace is like a small enclave where you can find 15 to 35 businesses, maybe a couple more, right? And in this plaza, it's all Black businesses, from normal stores to clothing stores to shea butter to like a legal office, like food, everything you need, right? And it's small, but it's getting bigger. And it's important that we try to emulate this all around the country, right? So that's why I'm such a big proponent of Black businesses. If you don't like racism, if you don't like the inequities that we have to deal with in our system, in my opinion, supporting a Black business, creating small Black enclaves around the country is a great way to mitigate some of that negative feeling we get just from being excluded from shit, right? So everybody go to Mogul Printing. MogulPrinting.com is the name of the company ran by my boy Daryl Mack. Mogul Printing, go there today for all your printing needs. Family, let's get this thing going, man. Again, I have the Reverend Philippe Shock on the line with me. Give me one moment. I'm gonna bring him on and he gonna break down his philosophy. He gonna break down his ideology about religion, about Black family, about oneness, about one frequency. I want to know about all that shit, right? So we're gonna get into that in a minute. Let me do the next business real quickly, family. The next business is my boy who I've interviewed on the show, my boy Camp Cleveland, right? Camp Cleveland does this thing where he does educational tours to Africa. Now, how dope is that, right? Even though, in my opinion, too many of my Black people, too many of my melanated folks disconnect themselves from Africa, like that's not where we're from, or like that's a different set of Black people. Me personally, I don't do that. To me, African brothers and sisters are just that, our brothers and sisters. And what better way to get an understanding about that area, about our history there, than touching the community yourself by putting your feet on the pavement and actually being in Africa. He does trips to Egypt, Kenya, Cape Verde, Senegal. If you're interested in doing an educational tour to Africa, they have 7-day trips where you go to one country, that's $2,800. 14-day trips where you go to one country as well, that's $4,000. And 14-day trips where you go to 2 countries, that's $4,500. So let's not complain about the money. We spend a lot of money on shit less educational, you know what I mean? That shit things that don't mean as much or wouldn't be as impactful as going on a trip to Africa. Payment plans are included. A minimum deposit of like $500 would be required to go on the trip. If you're interested, this is my boy Camp Cleveland, who does a lot of good things on YouTube and stuff like that as well. Like this is a pretty interesting brother that I'm happy I've been able to run across. You can dial 216-526-5241. That's 216-526-5241. You can go to www.campcleveland.org, www.campcleveland.org if you're interested in going on an educational tour to Africa. Come on, family. Let's reconnect with the motherland. Why not is the question Why not? We have too many black folks in this country that don't connect themselves with where they come from. And I don't believe in that shit. I think we're all from Africa. Get acquainted with the homeland. You feel me? Even if, because we have the Negroes who say we were here. We were here already and fine. In my opinion, we could have been here, but we still from Africa, goddammit. So let's get some connection to the motherland. And, you know, I'm thinking about doing one of the trips myself, just to go over there, smell the air, like get the energy from the people. And what he tells me is it's beautiful over there. It's all love over there. Like a lot of the shit they show you on TV and the news. Y'all remember coming up and being young, and every time you seen something about Africa, it was like some niggas who naked with bamboos in their nose. This is the movies. This is media. This is what they showed us, right? So we thinking like, I ain't going over there. You know what I mean? Come to find out, they got some of the most beautiful structures you ever seen in your life. You know what I mean? So if you're interested in a tour to Africa, contact my boy Camp Cleveland. Again, it's 216-526-5241. Or you can go to campcleveland.org. That's campcleveland.org. So let's get everything going, family. Let's bring on my special guest. We're going to add him to the stream right now. Let's get this thing going. How you doing, brother Rev Shock? How you doing, man?
What's going on, brother Harrison? How you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling great, man. I've been sitting here prepping, brother, just preparing to have you on. I'm just so excited because on my show, I interview a lot of people. The idea behind what I do, the Melanated Convo podcast, is having detailed, interesting conversation with regular black folks about religion, about shit, what goes on the internet, about what goes on in entertainment, about what goes on with our people on a day-to-day basis, police brutality, everything, right? We put it all out there on the line. The YouTube page is called Melanated Fathers TV. Me being a father of 5, starting when I'm 17, 18 years old, I'm like, I love my children to death. And we have on and off relationships to a degree, but for the most part, we cool. But I think about how I started this, like how I started my journey. I was completely unaware who I was. I was completely unaware of what I was doing in my community. And I don't want to see that for any new young brother coming up. Like, we need to start our families the right way. We need to treat our women the right way. We need to be men. Like, being a man who was raised without a father, Rev, I didn't know how to be a man to a degree. And this was, it fucked with my pride. It fucked with my ego. I didn't know where to go. You know what I mean? So I started reading, getting knowledge of self, and how some people find religion. Like, they find God just open now, and whether we agree with religion or not, they seem like they're a better person. Yeah. That's what consciousness did to me. That's what, like, reading Malcolm X's autobiography did to me. I'm like, all right, I know I did some foul shit, but there was a system here. There was a system here that nobody in my family told me about.
Yeah, you had help. You had help.
I had help. So I thank you. I thank you for coming on to the show today, brother. And I just want to get into your story and figure out how you got to where you are. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Definitely.
Well, I appreciate you reaching out, brother, on the gram and checking out my show and my work, and what you're doing with Melanated Fathers is so needed. We need to see strong, strong black brothers out there, strong fathers out here talking about what we need to do to be better men, to be better fathers, and to raise this next generation. So I really applaud you for that.
Definitely. And it's going to take all of us, you know what I mean? Because I'm a dude who was raised in the urban community, but I mean, I'm a little jaded about that environment just to a degree, because my mom was sick. So my brothers was 15, 14, and we didn't have much, and they sold dope, but they provided for my family. Like that lifestyle provided for my family when my mom couldn't. So I'm aware of what can happen when you're in these situations, but I also know that we kill each other too much. I also know that we treat each other like enemies, but George Zimmerman is doing gun shows, selling the gun for $250,000, and none of my real niggas gonna find him. So it's difficult for me at times to look at where we at. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, you know, one of my premises that everybody knows is I always say nothing is wrong with black people. Something happened to black people. And so when I look at my brothers and sisters out here selling rocks, stripping, doing whatever dirt they have to do to survive, they didn't ask for that. That's not their fault. they're accountable for what happens to them, but they're not responsible because there was a system that was put in place that made you a nigger in the streets. There was a system that was put in place that made you a Negro if you were able to have money and go to college and get an education. The system that's in place gives Black people only two options or two choices, and that is to be a good Negro or a nigga out here in these streets. And in our ministry, we refer to that as third and fourth frequencies, because everything is a frequency. Characteristics, traits, and behaviors have a frequency specificity. You know, like attracts like. Certain frequencies attract certain frequencies in communities. So if you were born in a particular zip code that didn't have options, chances are you had to do dirt in order to just survive. And that's not your fault, because here's the question that I always ask if I'm in front of an audience or if I'm online, and that is, when you were a little boy, did you ever go up to your parents or to an adult that you held in high esteem, say, hey, mom, dad, when I grow up, I want to be a drug dealer? Was that ever a goal? Mom, dad, when I grow up, I want to strip. Mom, dad, when I grow up, I want to be an alcoholic. Mom, dad, when I grow up, I want to be strung out on crack. Mom, dad, when I grow up, did you ever have a goal that amounted to the destruction of yourself? So if you did not have that goal, what happened to you? So on my platform, I interview, as you do, some of the greatest minds of our time, thought leaders, change agents, and the best thinkers in the world. One of which was Dr. Edwin Nichols. Dr. Edwin Nichols I was introduced to him personally by Dr. Joy DeGruy, who wrote Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. Dr. Nichols was was one of the doctors responsible for Dr. Joy's doctorate. And Dr. Nichols, I think, currently is our oldest living elder. He's 89. And he produced a framework called The Philosophical Aspects of Cultural Differences. And it was a genius piece. It's 55 years old. That's how perfect he's gotten it too. It's a divine perfection. But it shows what happens when, and by the way, Dr. Nichols is really the reason and my inspiration for me going and pursuing my doctorate in metaphysical science and philosophy. So I'm in the process now, in the middle of writing my dissertation. I got my master's degree on the same subject, became a minister when I became a Bachelor of Science, and decided that I wanted to take it all the way to the top, because Dr. Nichols told me philosophy is the highest of all sciences. So everything else comes under that. So one of the sciences in philosophy is known as axiology. And axiology, my brother Harrison, is how the environment shapes a human's highest value. And I thought this was interesting because when we look at his work, and in my framework, the 4 metaphysical frequencies, we talk about this concept called second frequency, or the Amu, or the European. And in Dr. Nichols' framework, the European or second frequency, because of what they went through in the ice, created a value system of person to an object. Everything became an object. Everything became property. Everything became part of, this is how we survive. In order for me to survive, that I must control everything. I must own everything, and not share it and commoditize it, because it's about the object. And when you have, using Dr. Nichols' example, when you have 3 months to grow a crop, and if you don't, you die, that makes you, it makes your mind believe that nothing else matters. Your family don't matter. Nothing else matters but you eating and controlling the resources that controls that crop. And you have to get it right every year, every time. Otherwise, you lose. And and a lot of them did, which is where cannibalism came from. They had to eat their young and elderly because they missed those crops. And again, all of that trauma, all of that drama caused them to become the individuals and the ideology that they currently have. Now, the flip side of that, beloved, is the African. We're sitting up with, just fruit falling from the trees, just everything we need, plenty of water, plenty of sunshine, plenty of goats, cows, animals. We were living the dream. We were living the wishful dream already fulfilled. We had it all. And so we developed the concept of family. We developed the concept of civilization. As Dr. Nichols would put it, we were people to people. Now, in my research from a metaphysical understanding, as I started talking to all of these great scholars from many different backgrounds, what I discovered was that the African was first created as a direct act of God. That the Creator, when it decided to duplicate, excuse me, and replicate, I've just made a smoothie, so this smoothie is so damn good. I'm so sorry, brother. I'm online. Normally I don't eat, drink smoothies and talk at the same time, but this is so damn good. But anyway, what I realized was that the Creator, when it decided to replicate and duplicate itself in human organic form, it created the African first. It created the best organic human species ever to grace this planet. And it created a human species that would be able to endure whatever the planet threw at it. So now for 200, according to Dr. Clyde Winters, because we're in a series with him on my platform, he was on last week. And if we go back either from 250,000 years up to literally 1 million years, there's evidences around the globe where we have always been here. We've been here for so many eras. And we morphed into what we see today as sapien. But we have been here a very, very long time. So why do I call the African first? Because, and I call the European second. Well, the African was birthed first. All humanity comes from Africa. So I took a deep dive into that, man. I looked at, like you, when you were saying, when we were coming up, we always saw some bucket-ass naked Africans running around with spears and shit and going booga booga. And we just started like, ooh, I don't want to have nothing to do with Africa. Yeah. Until we woke up and realized, oh shit, Africa looks like New York City. Certain parts of Africa, man, they got it going on better than we do here in California, right? Yeah. And so they got the whole world. You can go from the jungle to the boardroom to the skyscraper. They got everything that you want and need because Africa was the first continent. We are the first frequency. We're the first idea. We're the first thought. We're the first born. We're the first generated of God. Everything came second. So second frequency came second. Now, interestingly enough, beloved, when second frequency was it's tallied up that the Ice Age ran for 100,000, 300 years, depending upon the sources of which you go and find that data. This is the out of Africa. Well, did I lose? No, I lost. Now, how is that? I lost the host, but no, I'm still on here. How did that even happen? Is that even possible, family?
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I just don't know where the hell you are.
No, I put your screen up so everybody can see you.
That was deliberate. I was getting ready to say now, wait a minute. Hold on, brother. Okay, so and now I ain't got nobody to talk to. See, you see how he does me? See how Harrison does me? So see, there's no love, family. There's no love. We're here in the same backyard. No, I'm just messing with him.
We in the same
So here's some interesting things. So the Ice Age, 100,300 years, it was that last 5,000 years that birthed this anti-African that came out and really developed a xenophobia, a hatred for the other. But they had no language, they had no spiritual system, and so we took them in and we civilized them. Imagine meeting someone that, okay, we've seen homeless people. We've seen people who have been out here struggling for so long that they can't talk because they might have mental illness from trauma and what have you. It was kind of like that. So imagine rehabilitating an entire population of people, and in a very real sense, because they had no level of morality. We should not have been surprised that they turned on us. But here's something that nobody ever talks about. We mastered everything. We mastered heaven and we mastered earth. So we mastered the stars. The Dogon was able to map out the stars. We had a spiritual system in place, Ma'at. Obviously, we mastered the earth because we built civilizations and communities and architecture that to this day can't be duplicated or replicated. But we never experience trauma. We experience disappointment. We experience rage. We experienced abandonment and various different aspects of trauma, but we never experienced the type of trauma that second frequency put on us that we now refer to as the Ma'afa or the Black Holocaust, right? So we didn't have there's a term in science called epigenetics, and epi means above genetics. And so it means above the DNA, where an event or a series of events can alter the expression of that DNA. So if that DNA is designed to naturally cause you to seek wealth and survival for your family, if there is a right amount of trauma that hits that particular epigenome, you won't know how to survive. You won't know how to feed your family because that gene is shut off. It's an epigenetic tag that comes in that hangs like a Christmas ornament on your DNA, and it affects us. And this is why I say nothing is wrong with us. Something happened to us. So what happened to them was the ice. What happened to us was them. So nature did. See, this is why whenever I have a conversation with an Amu or second frequency, I say, look, your problem is not black people. Your problem is God and your people in the elite realm. Now, let me explain to you how I tell second frequency who they are. First of all, we didn't make you white. Nature did that. We didn't make you European. Nature did that. Okay. Number two, some of the whites, oh, you're taking all the jobs, affirmative action. What is that? First of all, find me any black person, any African or African American that you refer to that wrote laws in this country. Not one. Not one. We were not allowed to vote. We were not allowed to write laws. And to this day, even though there's blacks in the Senate, we're still not writing laws. So any law that has been written in this country that keeps poor white people poor is coming from a white person, a white elite. It's not from black people. So you are completely misappropriated and misaligned to even think about black people. You need to get your own ish together and understand why you are failing in your own group. That's another story. But anyway, let's go back to the ice. So we're looking at this second frequency concept. Now, as you know, I've had a 7-year run with Baba Kaba, Professor Kaba Hiawatha Kamene from Hidden Colors on the show. And our first interview back in 2015, 2014, somewhere in that area, on Martin Luther King's birthday, I asked him the question, how did white people come about? How did this happen? And so we understand that the Africans that went into this particular region Now we thought it was Caucasus region. It's not. It was the actual Asiatic region based on Dr. Winter's upgrade. So we're now upgrading Sheikh Anta Diop's northern and southern cradle with new data on actually where we migrated and where the ice hit and so on and so forth. So we went in, and over 100,000 years, we slowly began to depigment ourselves because the lack of sun, the lack of light caused a lack of melanin or need for melanin in order to survive that cold temperature. The cold came from below up over hundreds of thousands of years, so it was gradual. It's kind of like the concept that you hear about cooking a frog. You take a frog, put it in cold water, and then you heat it up, and then it dies before it even knows it because it's comfortable, and it happens so gradually. So each generation, and we're talking about 44,000 generations of depigmentation, of devolving, and I confirm with Dr. Clyde Winters that the African didn't evolve in the ice, we devolved in the ice, meaning we lost our language, we lost our spiritual system, and we just became survival machines. And we became exceptionally violent. When we turned into the Amu, we became exceptionally violent, as we see how the Amu, or second frequency, acts not just today, but throughout history once they came out of the caves. So when we look at this concept of second frequency, when they, in the Dark Ages, perfected chattel slavery, they perfected torture, and they did it to their own people, first to their own women and children. Mm-hmm. So when those European bodies, those traumatized bodies, landed here, they just unleashed their trauma on us. But there's a deeper history, Brother Harrison, that a lot of people don't know, and it's kind of just esoteric, like, why don't they like us, and how did all of this happen? Well, it goes into Dr. Jacqueline Battlelore's work, who I've had on my platform for like a 3-year period of time. We took a deep dive into her scholarship. And by the way, brother, if I'm babbling and I'm just going on, you got to make a commercial break or something. Just interrupt me and say, "Would you shut the hell up, Rev?" You know, it's okay. We friends and family. You know, because I'm that dude that come over and just won't shut the hell up. We all had that one person in the family. You know, that's me. Okay, I'm just keeping it real. You know. So Battlelore taught us.
No, so I do have one question for you.
Yeah, please.
Because this is interesting to me. So you're saying, like, because we look at how certain white people treat us, and we can say they going off of stereotypes,
yes,
or they're going off what they see in the media, whatever it is. But we have a population of white folks who just don't, and we ain't did shit to nobody. Like, in reality, we ain't did shit to nobody. So are you saying this type of mentality is something that's kind of in their DNA and they don't even know it?
Correct. Damn. Correct. My dissertation is actually on this very topic, which is fascinating that you said what you said. There's a psychopathy or psychopathy or sociopathy that's inherent and ingrained into second frequency or the European. And here's why. First of all, there was no concept back in ancient Egypt or ancient Kemet, because there's no such thing really as Egypt. But there's no such thing as race. There was only one people. There were iterations of people, different heritage of people, but they were all African. Race and racial constructs is an American-made thing. So what we learned is that between 1664 and 1681, in response to what was known as Bacon's Rebellion, the colonizers of the 13 colonies, the colonizers decided to create what was known as a divide and conquer strategy, where they would unify poor whites, or poor Europeans rather, with wealthy Europeans, and put the African and all others on the bottom. So let's go into that for a moment, if I may.
Go ahead.
The laws were known as anti-miscegenation. And anti-miscegenation laws, it was a cluster of laws that came down, that there started to be a disdain for, again, the other. There was a xenophobia because prior to 1664 and between that time period, indentured servants and slaves were both African and European. And people owned both. Africans owned African indentured servants and slaves. Europeans owned white and black indentured servants and slaves. And we owned white or European indentured servants and slaves. That was the land, that was the law. We married and integrated and mixed and blended families. But the thing that was happening in response to Bacon's Rebellion, along with, at the time, there were not enough European women to mate with the planters or the colonizers. So they literally, if you imagine, they sent a ship full of European women to come and marry and mate with the colonizers because there was not enough women. It was more men than women. Well, Brother Harrison, I don't know how old you are. I don't know if you've been around long enough to know what happens when a white woman or European woman sees a beautiful black Adonis god and they've never seen one up close before. You know what I'm saying? They working side by side with Abdudu. You know what I'm saying? And Abdudu is looking good as hell. He's chiseled and everything because he's out here working in the fields alongside her.
Tall, dark, and
she's looking at that. She's like, well, I came here for this fat, ugly, ridiculous, balding white European dude, but Obubu is looking really fly right now, So what happened, true story, Brother Harrison, they got jungle fever. So a lot of the women that they shipped over here ended up marrying the indentured servants and slaves because they were all in the same class. What this is gonna sound really sad, bad, and don't write letters. Don't write me letters. Write them to Harrison. Walmart people love Walmart people. Walmart. If you work at Walmart, you're gonna date somebody from Walmart because that's where you work.
Yeah.
So it's your environment, your zip code. Whoever's in your zip code is who's fly until you're outside of your zip code, and it's like, oh my God. So here you are within a zip code, if you will, or a bubble, and then now you're plucked into a whole new world, and Obubu is looking really good, and Craig don't look like shit. Just Craig is just he's just regular little Bobby. What the fuck Bobby is like. So the Europeans women caught this jungle fever, and it caused the colonizers and the European men to feel some kind of way.
Wait, Rev Shock. So
yes, sir.
Can we? Does any of this coincide with the fact that a lot of times when I'm around white men, if me and my friends, some of my friends are bigger, they're a little bigger, a little muscular, we all smelling good and shit.
Yeah.
The white man kind of seeing, it's like it's an intimidation factor I see in his eyes, or he get to taking his girlfriend and kind of positioning her behind him. And we didn't do shit but come in here. Does any of that relate to that?
That is absolutely a fact. It's natural. It's a natural aspect of nature that, think about this now. In Africa, there was for the brothers that, from what I have studied, most of it, every brother looked like The Rock, is what I'm trying to say. Now I can't prove that, but I have not saw one photo of ancient Africans looking like looking like my fat ass right now. I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing it, brother. So we've always had to be, because of the environment, and we were masters of agriculture. We were always like the epitome. We were the epitome of health. We always look good. So when you look at what happened when anti-miscegenation laws came down, you can see in those laws the unfettered jealousy and hatred of the African male. So let me hit you with these laws, brother, so that you can have this. And let me tell you, when I finish with you, you will go anywhere in the world and be able to shut the room down and give everybody a beautiful bottle of shut the fuck up if they come and try to counter you on this. Because this is the law. This is not opinion. This is not me and you just going back and forth hating on Whitey. This is not personal. These are laws. 3 laws that came down. First law, a person of African descent could not vote or run for office. Second law, a person, this is 1681, person of African descent could not own guns or gunpowder. So now at that time, no longer can I protect my family or feed my family, because it's illegal for me to have access to a gun and have access to gunpowder. So what do you see? So if you notice, they're pulling the African king out of the African family. Someone would ask the question, why is it that it's difficult for African men today to stay with one woman and have multiple baby mamas? It's due to these anti-miscegenation laws, that as these laws turned into intergenerational laws of trauma, it started to look like epigenetics. It started to look like genetic memory. And so it is the reason why many men unconsciously, for the most part, have a difficult time staying with one woman and being able to provide for the family.
Wait a minute. You
don't mess with me, brother. I told you don't have me come on the show. I told you not to.
Wait a minute, Rev. So you telling me, because I'm a brother with five kids, 3 baby mamas,
right?
A lot of my homies and the men around me, good dudes. We just ended up in situations where we got kids here and kids there. We take care of them, but multiple. You trying to tell me that's in my DNA, Rev?
That's in you. Nothing's wrong with you, beloved. Something happened to you.
Man, look.
It is my job, my goal as a Kaba calls me an administrator versus just a minister. It's my job to administer to the community, restore you to your first frequency, to your godship, to your literal seat on the throne. And be able to do that scientifically and give you the facts and give you the data, run it through the cause and effect, and to show you exactly what happened to you, when it happened to you, how it happened to you, but then give you the formula to be able to renew yourself, reinvent yourself, and connect back to that original frequency that was stolen from you before birth, but surely at birth. So let me finish this part out. And then I can get into even deeper as I'm going into how these frequencies began to develop. So we know first frequency is us. It's the God self. It's the highest level of expression of the African people. Second frequency is the people that came out of us over 100,000 years that devolved, inverted as humans, and became the most anti-African, anti-social, a killing machine, a genocidal killing machine. So the third law, so first law of anti-miscegenation, couldn't vote or run for office. Second law, couldn't own guns and gunpowder. Third law, a person of African descent could no longer take any type of legal action against this new designation of humanity called white people, because white people in 1681 was invented as a matter of law in response to Bacon's rebellion, but as a matter of, there's no history book where Europeans refer to themselves as white. That is an American-made thing. Now, this was in the 1600s, so I want you to be able to put this in perspective. This was 100 years before the U.S. Constitution. This was 100 years before the forefathers were even born, thought about, wasn't even a tickle in the testicles. So this idea of white and privilege was already part of the social and cultural lexicon. So everyone knew that Africans were on the bottom and whites were privileged and on top. So if you're born into that ideology, and remember, and I'm going to say this publicly, whiteness or white people is an ideology, not a biology. It was an idea that turned into, over generations, epigenetic, but it is not biological. It's neurobiological, but not biological in terms of phenotype and what have you. There is no such thing as white superiority. There is such a thing as African superiority, but not from the concept of an idea, but from the concept that, of course, the creator would create any of his best self to be able to survive anything on earth. So, of course, we're superhuman people. Because we had to be, because otherwise we would have died off as a species. We wouldn't have been able to survive. The reason that they used us in chattel slavery is because there was no other ethnicity that was strong enough to survive it, and they tried with everything. Dr. Mae Jameson, when she was the black female astronaut, when she went up in space to study who had the strongest bone density to be able to handle the rigors of space. Guess who? African women.
Now, Rick,
strongest women, strongest bones, strongest people. Go ahead, brother.
Tell me this, how does melanin play a role in this? Like, is there any truth to the fact that just being a highly melanated person, there are advantages?
Yes.
There are differences between you and someone white, like not on no talking shit about white people, but just our melanin gives us certain things that other races of people don't have. Talk about that real quick.
So neuromelanin is what is under attack, because neuromelanin allows us to be able to almost think in a way where we're telepathic. You have to understand, when we look at ancient Kemet, we did, and this is documented, we did shit that, again, still can't be done today. So we had to have had a very strong mind and a very strong connection to spirit and to source that even to this day, we don't necessarily have, but we have access to it if we know how to, if we know what happened to us. But you have to look at what built the pyramid. So melanin allowed us, that is our superpower, bro. That is our superpower. From eumelanin to neuromelanin, there's many different types of melanin. And we're not talking about the melanin in our skin that we look at and we can see different shades of mahogany, you know, to caramel. I'm talking about the melanin that allows us to be able to fertilize and give birth, to be able to populate and repopulate the planet. Melanin is a critical factor in that. Because the European doesn't have that aspect of melanin, they have to do a lot of fertilization or in vitro and all those various different things in order to spark that melanin. Many of them have to give themselves melanin shots to be able to have a family. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight on the power of melanin. And again, no shade on white people, but I've done several pieces on why Europeans are so fragile. My queen is a nurse of 45 years, and she showed me that Europeans catch certain diseases and afflictions that black people don't. Like, black people hardly ever get, ALS and various different things of sort. Those are European things that are germane to their genetic makeup of being in that ice for hundreds of thousands of years. And so they have natural proclivities for certain health issues and disease, but they also have they're suffering from what's known as a birth dearth because there's not enough of them to populate and repopulate themselves. And so they're shrinking and diminishing in numbers. COVID did not help. If anything, it exacerbated it. And even Dr. Frances Cress Welsing in her color theory talks about genetic annihilation. But there are, what I've discovered in my research, genetic annihilation is just a small part of what is known as autogenocide. Autogenocide is when a population of people automatically, unconsciously engage in activities that cause them to become extinct. So there's that. That's another conversation. Let me finish this piece on anti-miscegenation laws and what have you, and how white people were invented. So when white people were invented as a matter of law in 1681, it was gave them private law. Private law means privilege to which others are denied. So they had rights, and Africans all of a sudden had no rights. So now let me put this in perspective. So we were joking earlier about Walmart people dating Walmart people. So Sunday, let's do this. Friday, you, Jamal, and Becky work in the same Walmart, have the same pay, have the same job description. They have the same rights. They can marry each other. They can have kids with each other. They can buy property together. They have all the rights. Everything is equal. Over the weekend, Jamal and Becky, they come into work at Walmart Monday morning, and all of a sudden, Jamal has no rights. Becky is Jamal's overseer. So all of a sudden, Jamal can't protect himself. So if Becky, watch this, if Becky called the authorities and said Jamal said something to her, did something to her, whatever, Jamal could be killed, and he has no legal recourse because he can't sue this new designation of white people that now looks like Becky.
Wait a minute, Rev. Are you telling me Karen was created?
Karen and Becky was created, brother. White people don't know this. White people think they're biological. They're not. They're ideological. If white people found out what happened to them, they would be just as pissed off as we are.
Interesting.
They would be just as pissed off as we are, because there are psychiatrists and psychoanalysts that recognize this whiteness thing is crazy. White people are psychopathic because they were forged out of and by a group of psychopaths that were responding to a trauma that went well overboard, but also had a disdain for the other. And so they made it a law, and over generations, it became what looks to be biological, but it's not. It's an idea.
Wait a minute. So you mean to tell me, because again, when we look at police brutality, when we look at some of the ills of our community caused by white folks, do you mean to a degree, an open-minded white person could learn all of this and it possibly shift their ideology?
Yes, I know of one. That was Dr. Jacqueline Batalora. Shit, so I don't know about it. That's one out of I don't know how many millions, but shit, there's hope. Let's keep hope alive, goddammit. That's what I'm saying. So here's the thing, but this is why they're trying to stop critical race theory and all that. They don't want little baby Becky and little baby Bobby to know that white people ain't shit. They don't want their children to know that they ain't worth a two dead flies smashed together.
I was going to ask you about critical race theory because I've been seeing a lot of presentations on it and a lot of kickback. And I was thinking in my mind, why would anyone want to prevent kids from learning about true history, the history we were robbed of. A lot of the shit I'm learning at, I'm 41 now. I'm learning shit when I'm 30, 35 about people in our history. And I'm like, Black History Month never told me this. School never told me this. So the school system owed this to us. Why are white people, even some Black people I see, saying the negative effects of critical race theory? How can that possibly even be? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, the reason, my beloved, is because here's the real deal. If I'm gonna do a Cat Williams, this shit here, my nigga, if they found out what really happened to them, the world completely shifts, because it goes back to being a black planet. Which is what the natural order is. So you have to understand the biggest accomplishment, if you will, that the Amu of second frequency did was overcoming us. There's no other invention. There's nothing else that they have done that is bigger to them than defeating us, which is a literal, not just superpower, but world power. So you have to understand there are certain ones that do know this, but they don't want to go back and give that up. They don't want to give up that privilege. They don't want to give up that reparation. They don't want to give up that house. They don't want to give up that money. They don't want to share in the resources. Again, person to the object. Axiology. So this is what, and critical race theory is phenomenal, but this, what I'm talking about right now, is the missing piece. If this was in critical race theory and taught, it would level the playing field for everyone. Because here's what happened after second frequency became white. Dr. Peggy McIntosh in '93 referred to it as white privilege. When white privilege is challenged, Dr. Robin DiAngelo then kicks in with what's known as white fragility. When privilege is challenged, they become fragile. That fragility then moves into a third phase that Dr. Carol Anderson refers to in her work as white rage. So that is where the Tulsa, Oklahomas come from. That's where the lynching comes from. It's a rage. When they see, mind you now, they have been conditioned, just to show you how sick and psychopathic these people are. They have been conditioned to believe, one, that we're less than human. Two, it's okay to enslave people and get free labor. It's three or four, it's okay to rape and sodomize the children. It's okay to treat another, even if, and I'm just going to say this, even if it was another species, that we don't treat our dogs this way. Why would you treat someone enslaved this way? So you have to go and look at the cause of the effect of what's wrong with, what's the sickness behind a people that would make it a law to make it okay to rape, sodomize, sell, break up families, and completely eviscerate a person or a people's humanity. That is psychopathic. Now, anybody can sit up and argue and say, well, it was the times, it was the law. Who did the times? Who made the laws?
So, Rev, how can Black people with a clear conscience, because I struggle with this, how can Black people, melanated people, participate in this in this system, in this structure, the politics, whether it's local politics or the presidential election? How can we participate in this system when looking at the history, not only is this shit not for us, it's been built to go against us, and the motherfuckers who doing it got something wrong with them mentally. So how can there ever be anything fair out of this unless we come together and build our own shit? Too many of my people, I think, want to be involved in this system. They Biden, Trump, they ain't no different.
Brother, that is probably the best question you could ever ask any scholar. And I've sat many nights pontificating on that question. And over the years, I have changed. So now, based upon my research and study, we are dealing with, see, we think just because we don't see lynching every day or we don't see that level of violence every day, we think we're safe and everybody's okay. No, 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 no. There are black men, women, and children being murdered and lynched as you and I are talking right now. This is just a way of life for some of them and for a particular part of that population. Here's what I have come to my own conclusion. Now, when I talk about this concept called third frequency, the Negro or the coon, the bourgeoisie, the one who white aligns and whiteness values, number one, the Negro was really forged in Jim Crow. It was one of those things where you had to, everything was separate, black and white, and they named you a Negro. Now, you didn't ever go, I don't think anybody ever went up to their mom, dad, hey, mom, dad, when I grow up, call me Negro. No, that was put on to you as well. Nobody called, say, mom, dad, when I grow up, make sure you call me nigga. Now, when you understand nothing's wrong with you, something happened to you, then you start questioning everything. But the Negro was necessary because without the Negro, everybody dies. So the Negro is kind of the buffer that's trying to make it right, but they're lost in translation. They're lost in a racial construct and identity because they're Africans, but they don't want, I'm not African, I'm American. Okay, dumbass, that's fine. But you go out here and you try to get the vote and all of this. And part of it is to keep the Amu at bay as best we possibly can, because think about it. Why do they keep rolling back all of the progresses of civil rights? That's a sick people. So somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to be the Negro that allows us first frequency people to be able to rebuild our collective consciousness so that when they die off, we will be in the right state and frame of mind and have the resources to be able to do what we've always done, and that is run and rule our own territory and country and so on and so forth.
So we use the coon as a buffer, if you will.
There it is, brother. There it is. Think about this now. This is going to sound really bad, and I might get some letters, but don't send me the letters. Send them to Harrison. Remember I told you that earlier? Now, I'm a minister, right? So I look at some of my co-ministers or peers, and they have made millions of dollars subduing the second frequency Amu and making them feel like they matter, making them feel like they belong. But think about what would happen if Becky and Bob woke up and found they had no spiritual heritage, they devolved, that they did not matter, and that they were not able to access their first frequency godship. Imagine what would happen. What's his name? Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil says the best prediction of future behavior is past behavior. So it's not, so you can find me a liberal, you can find a white person, quote unquote, because if they're identifying as white, they're dangerous. It's like the Taliban or ISIS. You could talk to somebody from the Taliban or from ISIS, and I'm sure they'll greet you, assalamu alaikum, and be very friendly, but they'll kill you and fucking cut your head off too.
Yep.
So what happens when Becky and Bob, their natural proclivity, their epigenetic nature clicks in because there's a threat? What do you think is going to happen? So we need people like Jan Van Zant and Beckwith and T.D. Jakes and all that to keep these white folks feeling safe, and just give them all the fake ass Jesus that they need, give them whatever they want, so they will shut the fuck up and leave us the fuck alone. That's I'm just keeping it real, fam. Man. I'm a different kind of minister, man, and I come from the streets just like you in Chicago, and so I've seen some shit, and so this is how I've come to rectifying this stuff, because I was that nigga out here in these streets. Now let's talk about the nigga versus the Negro. You and I both know that at some point in our lives, I'm in my 50s, my mid 50s, that we looked and said something to the effect of that coon ass nigga. We said it. We said it. We looked at that bourgeois ass nigga. We've done that because we we despise the Negro because we never got the opportunity to be one. We didn't have money. We didn't have academia. We didn't have a way out. We had to fucking struggle and make a way. We had to steal, we had to sell, and we had to steal and sell shit. Sometimes that wasn't us. So we had to do everything in order to make a living. Okay? That's the nigga. That's the fourth frequency, but it's a mentality, characteristics, traits, and behavior that was forged out of responsive second frequency. It is not our first frequency. See, this is why we can't get out, bro. We try to solve our problems in this nigga mindset, or we try to solve our problems in this Negro mindset. The nigga sees a nigga. So a nigga can't see you and me doing PhDs, having intellectual masturbation on StreamYard. They can't see that. They just see another nigga. And so yo, throw me, let me hold them car keys, son. You know what I'm saying? They just go, let me get your house. Let me get your woman. They just see nigga. They don't understand that they can't get out. The Negro then tries to get out by white aligning. Well, if I get enough Lexuses, if I get enough education, if I get enough money, if I go to church and believe in white Jesus and I tithe more, they'll like me and I'll be safe. Right? You know, niggas ain't going for it. Which fourth frequency? That's just not gonna happen. So, and here's the real painful part you probably have come to. So the Negro believes in white Jesus, the nigga believes in black Jesus, and we all know that Jesus never walked this earth. So that's a whole nother conversation that we need to have, because there's a lot of bubbles and zip codes getting ready to be burst. Okay. So let me pause for the cause and just, let you digest that if you have questions.
Yeah. So
anything you want to interject into that.
So basically you're saying first frequency would be a black person.
Yep.
Person of African descent
FBA,
that has a higher level of knowledge.
Yep.
That has a higher level of understanding. Now,
it's our natural state. We're born gods and goddesses. We were made into Negroes and niggas.
Got it. Now, is it our job to help the third frequency Negro, the fourth frequency Negro? What do we do with them, Rev?
God damn it, Harrison. Why you gonna ask me that live with my family watching? Shit, man, that's a private conversation. We ain't supposed to be on air asking people those questions, man. Like Dave Chappelle, you doing this in front of my family, nigga? All right, so that is a great question, because I have struggled with this. Here's what I feel. Sometimes you can. There's a saying that a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. And so that means that if I make you wrong for being third frequency or fourth frequency, I'm not growing you. I'm putting a buffer between the two of us, because now your natural defense mechanism and trauma is going to kick in. So what I do is what you and I are doing right now. I just present the data and I'll let you find yourself in it. And when you find yourself or see yourself or someone, you might not even be able to because your mind is so hijacked, you might not be able to think that it's you. You might see it in one of your family members or in your kids or whatever. You won't even you'll be in a state of denial, like, nah, that's not me. But that I can see that over there with Auntie so-and-so or what have you. But eventually you'll hear this data and you'll begin to see yourself in the story. But here's the kicker, beloved. When people hear, black people hear, nothing's wrong with you, something happened to you, that changes everybody's life, because it changed mine. Because now I need to know what happened to me.
Got it.
Because now I am not at fault for the shit that has been done to me or the shit that I have done.
Wow. Now, when we look at the majority of the black folks, the melanated people in our society, most of the people I know, even if they aren't religious, like go to church, carry a Bible, they still have an affinity for white God to a degree. Like, how do we get our people to lean more towards African spirituality? Just for instance, just a small thing, like we have an African marketplace here in Sacramento that I know you're aware of. I've told people, hey, you want to go to the African marketplace with me? They immediately say, what are they selling? Goat meat? Is it going to be naked Africans there? I'm like, nigga, what you talking about? This is something that you don't even relate to. You don't even relate to Africa. Like you look at this as a foreign. But if I get to talking about religion right now, you're gonna tell me about your mama's tradition in white Jesus. So what do we do to help people like that? You know what I mean?
Excellent question, brother. So you send them a YouTube video of this interview. Mm-hmm. you know, this is the thing. Think about how you came into consciousness. Nobody forced you into it, and nobody made you wrong. You just decided to look at something. Maybe somebody said something. You heard something from somewhere. You read something, and you started like, what? Well, for you, autobiography of Malcolm X, right? So that was your entry point, that you saw yourself in what? You saw yourself in his story. You saw yourself in his data.
Got it.
So we have to allow our people to wake up, not by telling them to wake up, but by giving them the environment. Remember, axiology is the environment. How does the environment shape human values? So I can't talk to you, brother, and change you. I have to impact your environment. So I have to, you know how we used to do back in the day, because I'm now showing my age. You know how we used to slip somebody a cassette tape? Yo, son, you need to listen to this right here. And you go home and put that joint on, and it changes your fucking life.
And we didn't say nothing. We just
gave. We didn't say shit. We just, my nigga. All right, okay, all right. You know, that's what we did. And we went home. We opened up. We popped open that cassette tape, put it in. Oh my God, this is, you know. So that's impacting your environment. I didn't tell you what to do. I didn't tell you what was on the cassette. I didn't tell you, or the tape now, you know, yeah. I know people like, there's some people like, tape? What is he talking about? Anyway, yeah, you young son of a bitch. So can't stand these young people now. They don't know nothing about tapes. So it's the environment that I attack. I just basically set up an environment for you to walk into your best and future self. But I'm not going to make you wrong and say, yo, you know, you a nigga out here in these streets. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that. Who the fuck am I to tell you what to do and should not do when you were born in something that was trying to kill you from the get-go? So let me give you this, brother, and then you can go in with the, you know, wherever you want to go, because this is very important. I talk about this concept with brothers particularly, but it happened to sisters as well. When we were kids, we saw ourselves in the data. We saw ourselves in the family. Everybody was black. Mommy, daddy, uncles, sisters, brothers, whatever, cousins, neighborhood, everything was black. Started going to school, and then all of a sudden we get hit by these three white boys. We get the white boy on the boat, which is Columbus. We get hit with the white boy on the stick, which is Jesus. And then we get the white boy in the sky, which is God. All of a sudden, we are no longer infinite people. We are enslaved people. And the only thing then at that point is called the fourth grade syndrome by Kanjufu. I have the book here somewhere. And what happens, because at that juncture, that's when particularly black boys start failing in school and not having an interest in education. Why? They don't see themselves in the data no more. They don't see themselves as human no more. They just see themselves as slaves. And now they got white gods and white Jesuses, and perhaps mom and dad is off into that white Jesus and white God bullshit. Mm-hmm. So where does that little boy go? Back to his imagination and then back to the streets. Mm-hmm. That's where he goes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The third frequency says, okay, I'm all in. Fuck it. I'm an enslaved. I'm an American, and I'm going to go to school. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to get an education. I'm going to get my Lexus and my Benzo, and I'm not going to be these niggas out here in this street. Those are the only two options that this framework gives us. And it's both a lie. We're not niggas and Negroes, thugs, thoughts, bitches, hoes, baby mamas, baby daddies. We are gods and goddesses having that experience.
Can we? Okay. Can there be like can there be like a spook who's set by the door, if you will, meaning like a third frequency?
Where you think I am right now? That's exactly who the hell I am. Where the hell have you been for the last goddamn hour? Is all I'm asking right now, Harrison. Actually, to be honest with you, both of us are the spooks that sat by the damn door. That's what we do.
So the third frequency Negro can act like he's making the white man feel good, while at the whole time he listening to your videos.
No doubt. And fourth frequency too, because my brothers and sisters out here in the streets, they know. See, because we are rebelling against whiteness and what happens to black people when they get closer to whiteness, it puts us closer to our godness, or closer to our first frequency. Because you'll know, brothers and sisters, we can be selling dope, drugs, shooting up niggas, and we have a strong sense of the divine while we're doing it. We've been there. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, sometimes we attach that to organized religion, but there's still something there. Yeah. Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Because some of us don't believe in that organized religion shit, and we don't know a language, we don't have the vocabulary, but we know it ain't quite right. Something's just not, you know, like when somebody's curl is just not right. You know, like when Luther Vandross had that curl, it wasn't just right. It was something wrong with that curl, Lou. Something was just not off with it. And so we were a little suspect on it. So because we're in this manufactured reality, we're responding to the false racial construct of whiteness. We've become Negroes, particularly all of our entertainers, all of our politicians, anybody that's in a six-figure lifestyle is trying to be, is shaped to be assimilated, colonized, and move toward whiteness values. Then we have this huge dichotomy and gap between the Negro and the nigga. But the nigga sometimes is doing better than third frequency because we got Benzos and Lexuses too, goddammit. So and we got big ass houses and shit too. So we're making it, but we're doing it in a consciousness that is self-destructive because we have, if you will, the epigenetic tag of the psychopathy from second frequency European Amu.
Got it. Well,
does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
And Brother Rev, man, I appreciate you coming on the show today. This has been like an absolute history lesson for me. Normally I throw in more questions and shit, but I'm sitting here learning, brother. And my audience needs to hear like the way you broke down things from the beginning. This is necessary. And I'm definitely gonna have you back on, man. So everybody listening to the Melanated Convo podcast, you had a treat today. Do me a favor and like the video, share the video, become a follower of the Melanated Fathers TV YouTube channel. Brother, please do me a favor and let everybody know where they can find you.
You can find me on YouTube, youtube.com Shock Ministries. You can go to firstfrequency.com. That's the number, firststfrequency.com. There's a free affinity e-course that you can sign up to. And of course, right there, you can go to our Patreon, become a Patreon member for $1 a month, and we will rock and shock you and bring you back home to your original self, your true nature and true selves for the first time. So RevShock, patreon.com/RevShock.
Definitely. Well, this has been another episode, man, of the Melanated Convo podcast. I had such a pleasure of having this brother on. I knew he was going to drop some fire. We're going to have him back on again. But black folks, we need to be aware where we come from. Some of this shit sounds harsh. I know. Like he said, it's shocking. I know some of this shit sounds harsh, but what you going to do with the truth?
Right.
What you going to do with the truth? A lot of this is our truth. And we need to understand where we came from so we can understand where we're going. So, Brother Rev, I appreciate you coming on the show today, man. This has been
thank you for having me
episode of the Melanated Convo podcast. We out.
Hotep.